Shanghai, 2008. A sprawling metropolis of 20 million people, bustling with life and anticipation. The city was gearing up to join Beijing, the host city of the Olympics, in celebrating this historic event. But amidst the excitement, an event unfolded that would cast a shadow over the festivities.
In the late hours of July 6th and into the early morning of July 7th, within the walls of a high-rise apartment building in Chang'an district, a tragedy began to unfold.
Welcome to It's Not Well in China. I'm Robin.
I'm Noah.
It started with a mysterious phone call. At 11:55 p.m. on July 6th, the Shanghai police received an unusual report. A man's muffled, strained voice claimed to have heard a foreign woman screaming for help.
The location? He said it was somewhere along Chaohua Road. But before officers could ask for more details, the call abruptly ended.
A classic setup for a mystery, isn't it? Except this was no movie. Police traced the call to a public phone booth at the intersection of Fa Chen Road and Tingxi Road. They dispatched officers to investigate but found nothing.
Fast forward to 5 a.m. on July 7th. Charlotte, a Canadian model, returned to her shared apartment building after an all-night party. She was living in the Jinsen building, located on Chaohua Road in Shanghai's Chang'an district.
This district, with its bustling streets and proximity to Zongshan Park, was a vibrant hub of city life, a place where something like this seemed almost unimaginable.
Maybe it was the alcohol, or maybe just chance, but Charlotte decided to take the stairs instead of the elevator to her sixth-floor apartment.
On the fifth floor, she froze. Something was blocking her path. A body. A young woman lay motionless, pale, and surrounded by blood. Still somewhat intoxicated, Charlotte didn't immediately recognize who it was. Panicked, she ran to the lobby screaming for help.
Terrified and desperate, Charlotte called the police with the help of a cleaning worker. But then, a chilling realization struck her. Her roommate Diana O'Brien might still be upstairs, unaware of the danger.
Charlotte rushed to the elevator and went up to the sixth floor. But as the doors opened, she was greeted by another horrifying sight. Blood in the hallway. Overcome with fear, she retreated to the first floor. It was then that the pieces started falling into place. The woman in the stairwell wasn't just anyone. It was her roommate, 22-year-old Diana O'Brien.
Let's step back for a moment. Who was Diana O'Brien? Born in 1986 on Salt Spring Island, a picturesque spot off Vancouver's coast, she grew up in a close-knit community. A small-town girl with big dreams of becoming a supermodel.
At 20, Diana signed with Coltish Management, a modeling agency in Canada. After a year of local work, she landed her first big opportunity, a 3-month contract in Milan, Italy.
And then came Shanghai. For Diana, who had grown up on an island, this was another chance to explore the world. She arrived in the bustling metropolis on June 24th, 2008, ready to take her career to the next level.
13 days. That's all the time Diana had in Shanghai before her life was tragically cut short.
Diana was working with JH Model Agency, a small Taiwanese-run agency with just 3 models under its management, Diana, Charlotte, and 1 male model. The agency set up the 2 women in a 6th-floor apartment at the Jinsen building, where they each earned about $1,000 a month and paid $300 in rent.
Next, the forensic evidence told a darker story. The autopsy revealed that Diana died from massive blood loss caused by multiple stab wounds to her chest. The weapon? A single-edged blade, around 2 centimeters wide and at least 8 centimeters long.
There was no evidence of sexual assault, either before or after her death. However, defensive wounds on her arms and hands painted a harrowing picture. Diana had fought fiercely for her life. The attack began inside her apartment and ended tragically in the stairwell outside.
And here's something that still baffles investigators. There were no signs of forced entry. The locks on both the apartment door and Diana's room door were intact. The doors were wide open when police arrived.
The crime scene was haunting. Blood patterns inside the apartment suggested a desperate struggle. The front door handle was smeared with blood, and droplets led from the living room to the kitchen, where diluted blood was found in the sink. On the white sofa, there were faint bloodstains, while Diana's bedroom showed splatters on the bedspread and headboard. Yet, Charlotte's locked bedroom remained completely undisturbed.
It's like the scene of a desperate escape. Evidence suggested that Diana was first stabbed in the living room. She managed to flee into the hallway, but the killer caught up with her and inflicted the fatal wounds there.
Around 11:30 p.m., neighbors in apartments 601 and 603 reported hearing what sounded like an argument between a man and a woman. At the time, they assumed it was just a domestic quarrel and didn't think to investigate further.
This timeline matches the medical examiner's findings. Diana likely died between 11 p.m. and midnight.
But there's another layer to the mystery. Diana's room showed clear signs of someone searching for something. Her wardrobe, travel bag, and white wallet had been rummaged through, with blood smears left behind. Her wallet was empty, and her phone was discovered under the bed.
So this wasn't just a random act of violence. The evidence made it clear the killer was searching for something.
And that brings us back to the mysterious phone call. The one made just blocks away from the Jinsen building, reporting a foreign woman screaming for help. Could it have been about Diana?
That's the question. Diana was attacked inside the building. Could her cries for help have traveled far enough for someone on the street to hear them?
Or could it have been something more sinister? Consider this possibility. What if the caller was the killer himself? Someone who knew Diana lashed out in a fit of rage, and later regretted their actions enough to make that call out of guilt or fear?
A young man, perhaps. As police speculated, someone Diana knew well enough to open the door willingly.
That's one possibility. Another is that the killer used a ruse, perhaps pretending to be someone in need, or posing as someone Diana could trust to get inside.
Either way, it's clear Diana didn't just let anyone into her apartment that night.
With the Beijing Olympics just weeks away, Shanghai police were under immense pressure to solve this case quickly. The international attention surrounding Diana's murder only heightened the urgency.
Deputy Captain Zhang of the Shanghai District Criminal Investigation Department didn't hold back when addressing the media.
This international homicide case has created significant impact, both domestically and internationally. We must catch the suspect and uncover the truth as quickly as possible.
But before the police could identify a suspect, they needed to understand the victim. Who was Diana O'Brien? What had led her to this tragic moment in a Shanghai stairwell?
Do you know what's fascinating about investigating someone's life after they're gone, Noah? The way the smallest, most mundane details can suddenly seem so significant.
Like Diana's last Facebook status, I miss my other half.
Exactly. Simple message like that, it could mean everything or nothing. But when you step back and examine her online presence, Diana's Facebook reveals the life of a seemingly ordinary 22-year-old. She had 264 friends, mostly high school classmates from Canada, with a few colleagues mixed in. She loved Seinfeld, was a fan of Johnny Cash, and her photos were a blend of family gatherings, fun moments with friends, and the occasional modeling shot.
As investigators began digging into Diana O'Brien's life, they found someone who, at first glance, appeared to have lived a peaceful and straightforward existence.
One of the first areas investigators focused on was Diana's relationship with Barry, her boyfriend of 5 years back in Canada. Just a day before Diana's death, the couple spoke on the phone. During their conversation, Diana reassured Barry that she was safe in Shanghai and that she never went out alone.
Barry was consistent and clear when he spoke to the media, describing Diana as someone who lived a grounded, healthy lifestyle.
She didn't do drugs, didn't drink heavily, and had no concerning habits.
He said, emphasizing how little in her life suggested any risks or dangers.
Diana's modeling career, despite its outward glamour, seemed fairly grounded. Her agency told police that she had only been in Shanghai for a short time and spent most of it working. She traveled frequently for assignments, taking trips to places like Fujian and Yunnan province, which left her little time to experience life in Shanghai outside of work.
Charlotte, Diana's roommate, described her as someone who was highly focused on her work. While she occasionally attended gatherings with friends during her free time, her schedule was mostly centered around modeling assignments. Charlotte vividly recalled July 6th, the day everything changed. Both women had spent the day shooting an advertisement. Later that evening, they shared snacks at home, and Diana seemed completely fine, showing no signs of distress.
Later that evening, Charlotte went to a friend's party while Diana decided to stay in and rest. According to Charlotte, Diana didn't mention any plans to meet anyone that night. The building's security footage supported her account, showing no unusual activity around their apartment that evening.
For Diana's family, the news of her death was devastating. Her father, Michael O'Brien, spoke about the unbearable pain of losing his daughter so far from home. He revealed that he received the heartbreaking news early on July 7th, when the Ottawa Foreign Affairs Office informed him of the tragedy.
Michael followed the investigation closely, but the updates only deepened his grief.
Diana was a beautiful, pure, and compassionate girl, always chasing her dreams and career.
He said in a statement filled with sorrow.
I believe she didn't deliberately put herself in any danger in China. I just hope the Chinese police can catch the killer as soon as possible.
Barry's descriptions of Diana were heartfelt and consistent. He emphasized her grounded character, stating firmly,
She didn't do drugs, didn't drink heavily, and had no concerning habits.
but as investigators delved deeper, conflicting accounts about Diana's work environment began to emerge.
One of the key revelations was about the whiskey promotion gigs. According to Charlotte, both she and Diana had voiced frustration about certain assignments. Their modeling agency had occasionally arranged for them to dance in bars and promote whiskey, tasks they felt were outside the scope of typical modeling work. But Barry disputed this perspective, insisting Diana had never expressed dissatisfaction to him.
And then there were the emails. Diana's friend Melanie revealed that Diana had privately expressed her frustrations about wearing long dresses and dancing at hotel openings or product launches. These tasks, Diana wrote, were far from what she had envisioned when she came to Shanghai to pursue a modeling career.
But Barbara Kultish, the head of Diana's Canadian modeling agency, offered a very different perspective. She described Diana as experienced and confident in navigating her career.
Diana knew how to handle herself, and she always had the ability to say no to jobs she didn't feel comfortable with.
Barbara explained, casting doubt on the claims of dissatisfaction.
Basically, Diana's life was pretty straightforward. Aside from maybe some dissatisfaction with her job, she didn't have any major emotional conflicts or drama. The police quickly ruled out any kind of revenge killing. The autopsy also cleared out the possibility of a crime of passion, like someone killing her to cover up a sexual assault. Then, Charlotte confirmed that Diana's Apple laptop, her Canon camera, and her suitcase were all missing.
She also mentioned to the police that because the apartment building didn't have many residents, and most of them were familiar faces, Diana always felt safe. She'd often forget to lock the door, sometimes even leaving it open when she'd return late at night.
Police then theorized that Diana might left the door unlocked and someone took the chance to break in and steal her things. That eventually escalated into a robbery that turned into a murder.
After checking the building's residents, the police concluded that the perpetrator was likely an outsider who'd entered the complex. Thankfully, by this time, Shanghai's surveillance system was already pretty well developed.
The Jinsen building, where Diana lived, had security cameras both inside and outside its main entrance. Detectives meticulously reviewed footage from 9 p.m. on July 6th to 2 a.m. on July 7th, searching for any sign of unusual activity.
That's when investigators spotted him. 11:03 p.m., a man dressed all in black with distinctive white shoes entering the building. At 11:47 p.m., he reappeared, leaving the building. The timing perfectly aligned with Diana's estimated time of death.
When they analyzed his entrance and exit footage, something immediately stood out. His black shirt had a new tear on the left side, and there were liquid stains that hadn't been there before. These new details raised immediate questions about what might have occurred during the time he was inside Diana's apartment.
What puzzled investigators was what came next. The man left empty-handed. Remember, Diana's Apple laptop, Canon camera, and suitcase were all missing. And dressed in light summer clothing, he had no way to conceal those items as he exited.
Then came the chilling twist. At 3:57 a.m. on July 7th, the same man reappeared on surveillance footage, this time on a bicycle. He circled the building entrance multiple times, peering inside before riding away.
Just minutes later, at 4:06 a.m., he returned on foot. At 4:37 a.m., he emerged one final time, this time pulling a suitcase. He hailed a taxi and disappeared into the night.
When police showed the footage to Charlotte, she confirmed immediately that suitcase matched Diana's missing one exactly. This discovery solidified investigators' belief that this man was directly involved in Diana's death.
The repeated returns to the crime scene revealed something crucial. This wasn't the work of a professional criminal. It was someone local, familiar with the area, likely operating impulsively rather than with a calculated plan.
With this in mind, investigators widened their search to nearby surveillance cameras. They tracked the man's movements after he left the Jinsen building at 11:47 p.m. His trail led them south from Changying District to Shuhui, and finally to Minhang District.
The turning point came at an internet cafe on Wuzong Road. Surveillance footage showed him entering at 11:47 p.m. and leaving at 3:16 a.m., explaining the gap in his appearances at the crime scene.
But the real breakthrough came during a canvassing operation near Chaohua Road. Police showed the surveillance photos at a local tea house. One employee recognized him instantly. He had worked there briefly as a server, but quit on June 23.
The tea house records identified him as Chen Zifeng, claiming to be from Langxi County in Anhui Province. But when police checked with authorities there, they found no record of such a person. His ID was fake.
At this point, investigators had a face, a fake name, and his movements. But his real identity remained elusive. Somewhere in the vast expanse of China, a killer was trying to disappear.
You know what amazes me about this case, Noah? How a single conversation between coworkers at a tea house would eventually crack it wide open.
The second employee who remembered Chen Zifeng mentioning Huchu City?
Exactly. One casual break room chat about working in Huchu City's children's clothing factories before coming to Shanghai, that's what gave police their next lead. The suspect had mentioned having a cousin still working there.
And now the investigation splits into two teams, one heading to Huchu to track down this mysterious cousin, another to Langxi County to dig into the suspect's real identity.
Huchu City is located in Zhejiang Province, a neighboring province of Shanghai. And Huchu is about 150 kilometers away from Shanghai. The city's clothing factories are concentrated in Chai Li Town. But here's the challenge. Dozens of factories. Hundreds of workers from Langxi County, and they all knew each other. One wrong move, one whispered warning.
And their suspect could vanish forever. So they got creative, didn't they?
They remembered his love of internet cafes, how he'd spend hours gaming in Shanghai. Starting at 10:30 p.m., they mobilized over 40 officers to search every internet cafe in Chai Li Town.
Hours of searching, coming up empty, until a local household registration officer recognized him from the surveillance photos. Said he'd seen the guy at a children's clothing factory on Kaishuan Road 2 years earlier.
At the factory, they didn't find their suspect. But they found something just as valuable: 4 of his relatives. And after careful questioning, they finally got his real name: Chen Jun, from Stonetown in Langshi County.
3 days after Diana's body was discovered, they finally had a name. But where was he?
Police theorized he might have gone home, so at 4 a.m., July 11th, the exhausted investigation team traveled from Huchu City to Langshi County to meet up with another team. And here's where fate threw in a plot twist that you couldn't make up if you tried.
The ID card renewal.
Can you believe it? They checked with the local police station, and an officer mentioned that Chen Jun had just been there the day before, applying for a new ID card. He was due to pick it up at 8 a.m. that very morning.
7:55 a.m. Chen Jun walked into the police station. Officers were waiting at every exit. Game over.
In his room, they found everything the spring-loaded knife used in the murder: Diana's Canon camera, clothes, some Canadian dollars, and her suitcase. The only missing item was her laptop, which they later recovered in Huchu City, where he had sold it. It turned out that Chen Jun did not return directly to Langshi County from Shanghai. Instead, he stopped in Huchu City, which lies right between Shanghai and Langshi County, sold Diana's laptop there, and then continued on to Langshi.
Chen Jun was just 18 years old. Dropped out in 9th grade, left home at 16 to work. Factory jobs, server jobs, nothing ever stuck.
His confession revealed the tragic randomness of it all. On June 20th, he quit his job at the tea house, intending to return home to Anhui Province, but he was broke. Desperate for travel money, he decided to steal. He entered the Jinsen building, walked up to the 6th floor, and found the door to apartment 602 unlocked.
He walked in and grabbed a laptop, intending to make a quick escape. Then, Diana emerged from her room. Unaware of the danger, she smiled and said something in English.
Startled, he demanded money in Chinese, using hand gestures to make himself understood. But she kept smiling and talking, unaware of his intent. Panic set in. He pulled out a knife and tried to cover her mouth. She screamed and struggled. And in that moment, everything changed.
She ran, wounded, into the stairwell. He followed and stabbed her again. He took a few dozen yuan from her wallet and fled.
That's what gets me. Hours later, he passed her body in the stairwell while stealing more of her belongings, using the money to buy a ticket to Huchu City because it was cheaper than going straight home to Langshi. He later sold Diana's laptop in Huchu, and with the proceeds, he finally returned to his hometown.
November 17th, 2008, Shanghai No. 1, Intermediate People's Court. Chen Jun's defense team tried to argue for leniency based on that warning call to the police.
But prosecutors pushed back hard.
He had been deliberately vague about the location, and more importantly, he had returned to steal more items while Diana lay dead in the stairwell.
The original sentence was death. However, in an extraordinary act of mercy, and after consulting with Diana's parents, the court commuted it to a suspended death sentence. In China, a suspended death sentence usually means that, in most cases, it will be reduced to life imprisonment.
A young woman's dreams ended, a family's lives forever changed, all because of an unlocked door and a train ticket home.
So many little moments that could have gone differently. An unlocked door, a language barrier, a desperate choice. It's sobering to think how the smallest actions can ripple into life-altering consequences.
Diana O'Brien was just 22 years old. She grew up on Salt Spring Island, a tranquil, picturesque spot off Vancouver's coast. But Diana wasn't content to stay in the quiet corners of the world. Milan, Shanghai, she was chasing her dreams, eager to explore and build a future for herself.
13 days. That's all the time she had in Shanghai. Less than 2 weeks between living her dream and having it brutally cut short.
What stays with me is how people remembered her. A bright, smiling presence. The massage parlor worker next to her building recalled her coming in for a back massage, always with that warm, genuine smile. Neighbors noticed her, the friendly foreign girl who waved hello to everyone.
Even in her final moments, Diana smiled. She tried to connect, to bridge the gap with kindness. That's who she was.
And you know what's extraordinary about this case? Her parents' response. Faced with the unimaginable loss of their daughter in such a senseless way, they chose mercy. Their voice was instrumental in commuting Chen Jun's death sentence to life imprisonment.
Mercy is often the hardest act of humanity showing grace when everything in you screams for vengeance.
This case did more than bring one family to terms with their grief. It sparked change. International modeling agencies in China tightened security protocols and improved support systems for young models working abroad. But beyond that, it's a reminder of the randomness of life, isn't it?
How the biggest moments in life hinge on the smallest decisions. For Diana, it was an unlocked door. For Chen Jun, a desperate choice to steal instead of asking for help. Two lives that should never have crossed paths, forever altered in mere minutes.
Diana's last Facebook status read, "I miss my other half," referring to Barry, her boyfriend of 5 years. She was so close to going home. Her ticket was already bought. She was just finishing her final assignments.
You know what Barry said about her?
She was pursuing her dreams and career. Just a young woman trying to find her place in the world.
In 2008, Shanghai was preparing to showcase its best self to the world during the Olympics. Instead, it became the setting for a tragedy that underscored how fragile life is, how quickly it can change.
But also how light can emerge from the darkest places. How humanity, even in its hardest moments, can choose compassion over anger. For it's not well in China. I'm Noah.
And I'm Robin. Hold your loved ones close, and we'll see you next time.